Hello, everybody. Welcome. We'll get started in just a few moments here. We're going to let people enter the room. In the meantime, let us know where you're watching from in the chat. Hi, Lucy and Ren. How are you guys doing?
Hi, I'm doing well.
Hi, I'm doing really good.
Good. We're excited to have you both here.
Yes, I'm very excited to be here too.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've done something like this. I'm very excited to chat with everybody who's here today.
It has been a while. I'm excited too. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say because I know it's been a while since you've seen each other.
Yeah, quite a
Yeah,
while.
ever since quarantine happened, just like suddenly we stopped seeing each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were like ejected from school and never to be seen.
2 weeks,
All
they said.
Well, we have lots of people joining in, so we'll go ahead and get started. So, as I mentioned, we have Lucianis Camacho and Ren Chu with us here. They're both recent SVA graduates. Welcome, guys. I'd love for you both to do a quick introduction about yourselves. Lucy, if you want to get started.
Oh, yeah, sure. Hi, everyone who's here. My name is Lucianis Camacho, or you can call me Lucy, either works. I'm a recent graduate from the School of Visual Arts in New York City, and I majored in computer art, animation, and visual effects, but mostly visual effects. And as of now, I mostly busy myself with like concept work and illustration and like comics as well.
Nice. My name's Ren Chu. I'm also from SVA, also the same major, BFA Computer Arts, and my focus was motion graphics, specifically 2D motion graphics. I'm from Jersey. I commuted all the way to New York for school all 4 years, but now I'm here in LA ever since, I guess a little bit since quarantine happened. And right now I work as a motion graphics designer and freelance illustrator slash comic book artist.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So, Lucy and Ren both will be drawing in Clip Studio Paint today. You'll be able to watch them as they chat and draw. There we go. You can see their screens right here. I want to remind everybody that we do have the Q&A feature. So if you do have a question for Lucy or Ren, please leave it in the Q&A and we'll try to get to all of them. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I'll kick you guys off with a question. What have you both been up to since graduation?
Ren, if you want to go first, yeah.
Okay. Since graduation, I think because I had this comic that I'm drawing the cover art of with a client, like postponed since like I had to work on thesis and everything. I've just been working on his first issue, and then a little bit after I finished his first issue, I got a job. So that was pretty nice. And then I've just been kind of working as a motion graphics designer and still a little bit freelancing, like illustration, usually for like album covers. And soon I'm going to be working on issue number 3, which is the cover art that I'm doing right now.
Very nice. Lucy, what have you been up to?
I've been kind of all over the place. I really thought that post-grad would be like the streamlined thing, and it was everything but that. When we got removed from school, was in the middle of my thesis film. So when I did finish that, I had a lot of film festivals lined up. I had just finished doing the National Latino Film Festival, and then there's a New York Latino Festival, and then coming up, I have the Dominican Film Festival in New York City. So I've been doing Q&As with people like all month long for these film festivals because they do get screened after they're shown online. But aside from that, I've been doing a lot of freelance work as well, like kind of same as Ren, like album covers, t-shirt design, stuff like that. And then like for my own shop as well, like right now I'm like doing earrings and stuff like that. So I'm kind of like all over the place trying to kind of find things to busy myself and to expand my horizons, I guess, because now is the time to do those things before I have like a more guess tie down job at a studio if I manage to do that at some point. But also after school ended, I wanted to go into comics, which is what I'm kind of working on right now, kind of picking up where my thesis film left off. which I'll go more in depth about in a bit. But yeah, I've been like thinking, oh, like a webcomic sounds like a really dope idea, and I want to do that and like kind of put my hand in that and see how that goes.
Nice. What are you working on right now? What's on your screen?
So right now I am doing kind of like, I guess a spread, if that's what you want to call it, of my characters that I have designed so far for my webcomic. My webcomic's on hold right now because I have other projects that kind of take priority right now, but my style is kind of like this mixed media thing where I'll take like a like real image. So right here I have the 59th Street subway station, which is the Columbus Circle station where my film takes place. So like the school that everybody goes to is in Columbus Circle. So I'm drawing all like my characters that I have designed so far, drawn into this like image. And then once I'm like done coloring everything, I kind of like composite them into the image so they look like they're actually there. So it has like this cool mixed media feel.
Awesome. I'm excited that we get to watch a little bit of your process right now. So we already have lots of questions coming in the Q&A. I'm just going to go ahead and dive in. One of them is, how has COVID in any way affected your art and your career?
Ooh.
Oh, that's a good question.
I'll let you go first, Lucy.
Okay. It's affected it a lot because like I'm a very like social person, and like a lot of my drive to create work comes from interacting with people. So when that is kind of like cut short, I felt like my kind of motivation and my drive to make things, and I'm kind of like a like grinding machine when it comes to work. Like I constantly want to make things, and like art isn't not only a job for me, it's also kind of a de-stressor, and it's how I get my emotions across and how I you know, kind of take a break from life. But when COVID hit, it kind of felt like I had no motivation to do anything because, you know, we're in a global pandemic, and you know, I get a lot of my joy and motivation and my inspiration from being outside and interacting with people on a day-to-day basis, whether they're artists or not. So as soon as COVID hit, I was very like unmotivated. But as I started to get used to everything, and then like kind of like the initial scare kind of wore down, I started to feel like, well, I'm out of school now and I have all the time in the world to do what I want. So, and I've never had that freedom because I've always been in school. So it was a little weird for me to get adjusted to that. But once I realized that, I like have been just going full steam ahead and just making things that make me happy and making the art that I want to see and not necessarily what other people would want to see. And it's been working so far for me a lot. And I love working remote. So this is like a godsend for me.
Awesome. Ren, what about you?
I kind of like somewhat relate to Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely was kind of worried after we graduated, and I was like, it's COVID-19, and I'm pretty sure there's like jobs just like started going away and everything. And I was worried, like, I just graduated. How am I going to get a job? So I think it got more competitive in terms of applying for studios, because I think it took me like 2 to 3 months to actually get my first job. And honestly, thank God I got it. But kind of like Lucy, I kind of took some time to like do stuff I wanted, because like once I was finished with thesis in school and then finished with my client's comic, Mimic, I was like, okay, what do I want to do? And my husband kind of helped me to remember that I always wanted to do a comic of my own, which I have not announced at all because it's still in the works. And I kind of just worked on that until I got a job. And I kind of put it on the pause for now just because I have so much work to do right now with like videos and whatnot. But I do like the fact that I would get to work remote as my first job, because I guess I was kind of nervous at the idea of going to a studio and like having to go through that whole process. But I feel like this is like perfect for me right now because I get to stay home, work my own schedule, get used to like the adult working life, manage my own sleep schedule and everything. So there's like pros and cons to it. I'm just trying to make the best out of it.
Right. I have a follow-up question for both of you. You both mentioned that you've been enjoying the remote life. How do you guys stay organized?
That's a good question. I'm one of those people who are like, I can somehow manage to stay organized without writing things down. And I've made it through 22 years of my life doing that. But as soon as COVID hit, I realized that once I had graduated and I had so much availability, I had a lot of people like, wanting to hire me for like small jobs. And it was a lot of small things. So it was hard for me to keep track of them all at once. So basically what I ended up doing is that I actually like took my brother's high school planner that he wasn't using and I just started writing things down in the planner, and that's what's been keeping me like organized and stuff like that. And sometimes I'll put sticky notes in the most obvious of places so that when I'm walking around my house I remember, because I feel like if I put the sticky note like in my planner, then it's out of sight out of mind kind of situation. So I'll put like the sticky note on like my bathroom mirror or like on my Cintiq when I sit down to work, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have to send that thing in.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same with Lucy as well. You don't see my computer, but there's like sticky notes like all on like in the bottom row computer. There's a calendar. I have another calendar in the kitchen, but that's for like family event, something not non-work related. But my calendar right here is like full of bullet points. Is like meeting here, check in here, album cover due here. You know, I like writing things down. And I have spreadsheets of like how much I'm getting paid for a certain commission, who am I taking, what needs to be done. I don't know why I really like spreadsheets. I think it's because of Thesis, because I worked for
Definitely Thesis.
Yeah. Yeah, and what else? I think I always put a rule of thumb. Well, this is in the scenario I don't have a job. I only will ever take 3 commissions at a time. And I always give them more, like if it's realistically going to be done in a week, I put like 3 more days, because you never know what's going to happen, like COVID, or your hand is cramping, or you get sick, or you get hit with coronavirus like I did, and you have to take many days off.
Big facts.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm glad to see that you're doing better.
Yes, I am. Thank God.
Well, we have a question from an anonymous attendee. They are asking, would you suggest going to art school for a degree or working on your portfolio independently?
That's really hard. I think it really all depends on you, because believe it or not, I've gotten that question quite a bit from people, because like I recently graduated, so that makes the most sense. But that really depends on you. You have to self-reflect a little bit and see what your needs are. So I'll tell you why I went. So it wasn't because I necessarily needed the degree per se, because to do art, you don't need a degree. Like your work will speak for itself. However, the reason why I went was because my family, I come from a family of immigrants, and my family doesn't really have like connections like that. They don't really know much when it comes to art. So when I told my parents I wanted to do art, they literally just gave me the blankest stare ever, and they're like, I have no idea how to help you. So I had to like ask my art teachers and stuff like that, and they were like, well, considering your situation, you need connections, you need to get acquainted with the industry, you need to network, and you're not going to do it here in like the middle of nowhere, New Jersey. So go to New York, go to any school of your choosing that teaches art, because there's several in New York, and get your degree, but not for the degree, but for the experience and for the skills that you will learn and for the people that you will meet. And it definitely worked for me, because half of the things that I did in like 1 year at SVA wouldn't have happened if I just worked on my portfolio. I got a lot of my like business sense and like my social media skills and like my even just like getting comfortable talking to people from meeting the people that I did at SVA, and them getting me into conventions and into social media and stuff like that. So if you're somebody who's like very shy and needs like help with networking, because like networking is like half the battle, I think art school is useful, but don't go for the most expensive one. I went to SVA because it was the closest to me, and I had family members living in New York, so I could stay with them. But of course, it's really based on your needs.
I completely agree and relate with Lucy. I am also a first generation, like child of immigrant parents. And, I didn't have that luxury either. Because I know there are people that can like go into the art world and get like famous overnight just because of their connections with their parents and everything. But, I don't have that at all. So I definitely recommend going to art school, like beyond for your skill. I would say because people think that art and business are like nothing to alike, but actually, if you can combine both worlds, I think you would succeed very, very well. I also went to SVA for connections. I definitely heard that there was like really great connections, and I'm like, okay, I need that. I want that. And I chose computer arts because I was already doing digital art in high school, and I thought like this would really help me evaluate or teach me new skills in the digital art world, and it did. I
It definitely
definitely,
did.
definitely, because I would have never touched After Effects,
Mm.
honestly, and I use it like every day. They also teach you, at least in SVA, they teach you the business of art. There's like a business class and everything. And honestly, shout out to the chairman, Jimmy, for me because he actually got me the 2 jobs, and it was so nice of him. And I would also say that's connections. And honestly, um, I also took SVA because it was the cheapest and closest place of my options of art school. And but I also liked it a lot because my high school professor, she went to SVA.
I was gonna also add that SVA is really good with careers. Like I know like a lot of schools are not that great, but like SVA does like if you ask them or they will like hook you up or like the career things they always post like newsletters like here's a bunch of jobs that you can apply to and then you can like sift through. Like I know a lot of schools don't have those like resources. So that's like a thing you should look into if you want to apply to art school. How good are they when it comes to finding their graduates jobs or like getting those connections. Like my most recent gig, I was like recommended by a professor, and that wouldn't have happened if I didn't go. So.
Amen to that.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Also, yeah, technically, like Lucy said before, you don't need the degree to succeed in the art world. Like Eric said, our professor in, what was it, motion graphics we took?
It's motion graphics, yeah.
Motion graphics. But it's definitely like you work so hard, you develop your skill, you develop your style, your personality. That's where the thesis comes in, or kind of like show like the industry, like, hey, this is me, hire me, please. And I feel like colleges really give you that discipline and light competitiveness, where we're all very like very helpful and nice to each other, but we also like to push each other too. And I don't think you could get that from like being alone.
Ren, you mentioned motion graphics, and we actually have a question specific for you. They're saying, hello, Ren. I was wondering if you also use Clip Studio for motion graphics.
Motion graphics, I would say yes. I also use Photoshop. So anything I illustrate, it doesn't matter if it's Photoshop or Clip Studio Paint, but I would use my illustrations in After Effects to animate illustrations. Those are usually for personal drawings or like personal projects. I have yet to use it in like my job just yet.
Got it. So we are also streaming on Facebook and YouTube, and we have a couple questions coming in from Facebook. One of them is, what are your favorite comics and comic book artists?
Oh my God. Like I'm gonna geek out for like a minute. No, that's too much, but like love Jen Bartel. Like I don't know if anybody knows her, like, but I love her like so much. She went to SVA as well. She graduated I think in 2011. Don't quote me on that. But she like her style is so similar to my own, so when I found her I was like, oh my God, like this is such good stuff. She did I think Blackbird, and she also did a bunch of covers for like other comics, but like one of my favorite comics to date is Snot Girl. Like
Yes.
I love Snot Girl so much, and like I have to buy the newest editions because I'm like slacking, but yeah, I love Snot Girl so much. Like the Scott Pilgrim comic, I love that too. Like it's classic. What else do I like?
Manga.
Manga. I have so much manga. Like, does it count as a comic? Yeah, it counts. I have the Gentleman's Alliance Cross manga, and it's such an old manga. It was like 2003, I think. but it was like what got me to want to be an artist. It was like a lot of manga that like I would find in the Barnes and Noble that I was like, oh my God, I want to be like this when I grow up. And I would I would like trace the pages and stuff like that when I was like 9, and I was like, oh my God, this is so pretty. Like I loved all the ribbons and like the la-di-da. That's why like kind of like if like you look at my art, I have like a lot of embellishments in my work because like it's from those old mangas that were published in like Ribbon magazine or something. Like I have a very like shoujo anime background, and it's just like it's life.
Yeah, I like I didn't know that was her name, the artist for Snot Girl. For some reason I only remember her from her Instagram handle, which I think it's like dairy free.
Oh no, Jen Bartel is the other one. So who did Snot Girl was Leslie Hung.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Snot Girl. I love Leslie Hahn's style, and I'm like so in love with it. Her Instagram is just full of sketches, and I am in love with it. I'm such a fan of like sketchy artwork. Obviously the comic is more fine, but I just love how she blends semi-realism and like anime-ish or like cartoonish. I'm not sure how to describe it. It's her own style.
Yeah.
Another favorite comic book artist. Well, technically it's a graphic novel, but Blankets by Craig Thompson. Craig Thompson is so talented. Not only in his illustrations, but also his storytelling. Blankets is like my favorite graphic novel, technically, of like all time. And who else exactly? Yeah, there's a lot of manga I read, like Dead Man Wonderland.
Oh yes.
Or like what else did I read? Death Note. Why am I blanking out? I like watch and read.
I like when people ask me things and then I'm like, I forgot every single thing I've ever looked at in my life. Like
I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like. Who else? It's someone in the back of my head. Gosh, I can't remember. I'm so sorry.
We'll go back to you on that.
Yeah.
So say we'll come back. Everybody in the audience, let us know your favorite comics. Leave them in the chat. Maybe it'll be the one that you're trying to think of, right?
Yes.
All right. I have a question from Fatima Farid. They want to know, what would you suggest is the best way to learn anatomy for someone who's lacking in drawing humans specifically?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. Mostly because I do the semi-realism thing, so like anatomy is like super key. This is probably the answer that everybody gives, but it's like super true. But I took 3 anatomy classes and I didn't even have to in art school. I'm a computer art major, and they're like, why are you drawing? But like I knew that like I wanted to do like concept work and more illustrational stuff, so I did I would run to the fine arts building like every Wednesday for the first 3 years and just do anatomy, and then we would do something called model boot camp where we would just straight figure draw for like 3 hours a week. And it definitely improved my work so much. And it wasn't just like figure drawing either. I did like an anatomy class, like drawing bones and doing like muscles and stuff like that. And I always thought that I wasn't like fit for that analytical drawing, but I enjoyed it so much because it allowed me to turn off my brain and just draw what's in front of me. And after a while it becomes like a kind of like a muscle memory. Like your hand just knows where things are supposed to be and what looks wrong and what doesn't look right. Because when I entered SVA, I kind of had a grip on anatomy, but it was kind of wonky. But I would say after a year of just doing anatomy, and I would also do this thing where I would sketch in ink. So I would force myself to get it right the first time because you can't erase ink. Because I feel like a lot of people get hung up on erasing, and I'm like, if I just not allow myself to erase, I will get better. And that is definitely what happened. And draw big. And if a lot of people draw small, draw big. Like it helps so much.
I completely agree. Same thing. I took classes that I didn't have to take. I took the same class with bones. I had to draw like skeletons and everything. Get to understand like the foundation of human bodies. So yeah, and everyone was like a cartoon major or an illustration major or fine
animation.
Art major. Yeah. And here I'm a computer art major, like a hand.
Yeah, it's like, oh wow, like we don't like we just throw things in the render farm and we call it a day, but like
Yeah, exactly. And I agree completely what Lucy said. Draw big, go big or go home. Honestly, it will help you, especially with your shoulder, because sometimes we focus too
yes.
much and it hurts, and you need to really exercise that shoulder a little bit. It needs attention. Um, and what else? Yeah, just look at a lot of reference photos, even if you're on your free time. I think there's a website you can literally look up like human anatomy references, draw it, practice, practice, practice. I agree. Don't erase, just keep drawing. I did a lot with charcoal, which is not inking, but it's definitely a lot harder to also erase or take back
Yeah,
what
you
you
look like a
put
chimney
down.
sneezed on you when you're done. Like
Exactly. Yeah, that's both our advices are kind of the same.
Mhm.
Very nice. Good advice. All right. Another question for you guys. What's your best advice for new Wacom users transitioning from pencil and pen and paper to digital?
Mm.
Oh. Um See, that's hard because I'm probably the worst person to ask because I was using a Wacom by 11 years old. But because what's it called? I was like 11 years old when like the digital art craze was like just taking off on YouTube and like everybody was on Paint Tool Sai. If anybody remembers that, maybe
Oh
I'm
my
old.
gosh.
Yeah, I was using like a Bamboo Create, like the old model, like the one with like the silver one with like the like small nib. Like when I was like 11, and I was like drawing on Photoshop Elements 13. Um, but I think the transition, I'm gonna be honest, it's really hard to transition from paper and pencil to a tablet if you're doing the one that doesn't have a screen, because there's like this disconnect that I'm like my brain cannot physically like comprehend why am I looking up when I'm drawing down. So I highly recommend getting like the ones with the screens. I know the Wacom one just came out and like it's a great like lower cost option to just get yourself acquainted with. Um, and drawing digitally is kind of weird, but the only advice I can give you is to use the tablet frequently so that
Mm.
you're rewiring your brain. I feel like a lot of people use it once and they're like, this is weird. I'm like, well, of course, any new medium is going to feel uncomfortable. Like, you have to keep using it so your brain can get accustomed to how the medium behaves. So, art is patience.
Actually, that's exactly what I was going to say. Patience. It's a lot of
Yes.
patience. I don't think, I think I got my first Wacom tablet when I was like, I want to say the beginning of high school, maybe middle school. So like 15, 16, 14, something like that. And I did not get used to that until like a year. It literally took me a year to like get comfortable with it.
Big
But
facts.
exactly. I think at one point I took like a month of a break and then suddenly I got better at it. I don't know why that's kind of my method where it's
That's so true, though.
like you'll
Like,
work on something so hard, you take a break and then you're suddenly better.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. But yeah, same thing. I still use like this tablet, this small one. I like it. I forgot what exactly it is. It's the Bluetooth one. I like it so much. It's small, but it really does the job and it's so portable. Yeah, and I would say just keep practicing, keep using it. You're gonna have to keep pushing through, but you'll get there. Trust me. You got this. Believe in yourself.
Wow, inspirational.
Bob Ross. I've been watching so much Bob Ross lately.
Ren, it looks like you were working on the Intuos. Is that the tablet you just held up? Are you working on that right now?
Yes.
Very nice. And then Lucy, which Wacom product are you using right now?
I am working on the mini flat screen that is the 22 HD. But I'm planning to upgrade to the Pro line very soon.
Awesome. Somebody's asking, did you ever try to draw with a mouse?
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
worked horribly. I'm not coordinated for that.
Oh my gosh. I did that when I was like younger than 13. I would draw on, what was it, MS Paint?
MS Paint, yeah.
With a mouse. It was not great, but it expressed my feelings.
I'm gonna tell you something though. There's some like 13-year-olds who can draw a mean picture in MS Paint.
Oh my gosh,
Like,
yes.
MS Paint, that's a throwback. A question from Althea Gonzalez. How do you find your inspiration? Do you have a process to get inspired?
Ren, you can go first. Let me think.
Wait, can you repeat the question again so I could properly answer it, please?
Yes, no problem. Althea is wondering, how do you find your inspiration? Do you have a process to get inspired?
To get inspired. So I go through Instagram a lot and look at a lot of artists and different artwork, big or small. And it definitely helps me to decide what do I like. I usually save really inspirational artwork in like Instagram. I think you could click save and I put a collection like inspiration. Literally, I just look through it and I get inspired. I have like artwork hung up around my house and I look at it. And what else? I definitely would say in order to produce art, you have to consume art. Go to art museums, watch movies that you find inspirational, do a little bit of research, like art history, believe it or not, can come in handy. What else? Yeah, and I watch a lot of anime or cartoons like every day, so that kind of inspires me every single time. Or reading books. I'm reading this book. I think it's like different worlds of anthropology, and it talks about like different stories from different parts of the world, and it's so inspiring. So yeah, I just keep looking and researching and consuming things that you like, or even learn things that you don't like about. That kind of helps you understand what you do like too.
Like basically for me, what gets me inspired is that like I'm super big on Pinterest, and what's it called? I love to like go through and just like type in like a keyword. So like I'm very big on fashion. So like if I'm feeling very couture that day, I'll look up like runway couture from a certain time period, and I'll look at like silhouettes and stuff like that in fashion. I'm very big on like fashion. And then also I like draw from my own like culture. Like my family's from the Dominican Republic, and there's like a lot of folklore and stuff like that. So I like to look into that, and like just like I like to draw like my family members and like people that I know in real life and like project them into different personas, and they just don't know that I do that. um but also too, it's like what like Ren said is that I like to look at other people's art, and then they'll like somebody will draw something and I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. I never like considered this theme, or like, oh, that's such a dope like idea. Like I want to do like my own spin. Sometimes I'll even like participate in those like draw this in your style things. Oh my God, I love doing those. Because it like forces me to like interpret things and actually gives me like a prompt. Because for me, what is the hardest part is not drawing. Because like once I'm drawing, I'm like, yeah, I'm in my zone. For me, it's like deciding on what to do, what pose. Oh my God, that takes like 3 hours. So yeah, like honestly, it's just looking at other things and also watching movies and shows. Like I'm big on K-drama, and I love watching
Oh my
really like
gosh.
bougie K-drama that it's like, oh, the rich guy with like the poor girl. Oh my God, I love those. But it's just like watching things, and then like ideas just pop into my head. It's like, oh, wouldn't this be cool? Wouldn't that be dope? It's like basically just like that. It's just having fun and doing what makes you happy.
Perfect. So I have another question from our Facebook stream. Somebody's asking, do you make your own brushes or purchase them?
I don't purchase them. I bought like a pack once, but I usually go into the Clip Studio asset library and just like look up, I don't know, like gouache brush, and then like I look at the ones that I like that look cool, and then I like get them.
I purchased some. My husband actually bought me a digital brush for Procreate on my birthday. And that was really sweet because I was like, oh my gosh, he wanted to help me in my like art career. That was really sweet. I also just kind of like purchasing from some like artists just to support them. And also because I'm a little bit lazy to like make my own brushes. I'm not gonna lie. I think I saw you do it once, Lucy, didn't you? Or was that someone else who was making their own brushes?
I like made a brush that was for like patterns. I don't remember what pattern it was, but I was drawing it quite frequently. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna make this like a brush so I don't have to keep doing it manually.
All right, I have a follow-up question on the brushes. How do you choose a brush for an artwork with so many choices?
Mm.
Honestly, I use the same brush for literally everything. The darker pencil and the turn up pen in Clip Studio will forever be my ride or die.
Honestly, I look for ones that look natural. I really like this. It's called AA ink brush. I literally looked up ink brush Clip Studio Paint, and I found this one. It's like very textury and like nice, and I'm making a mess. Because I really like that. It looks real, but it's digital art kind of feel to it. For Procreate and Photoshop, it's kind of the same thing. Find like really inky, textury, fuzzy brushes, or like very colored pencil brushes, because I really like that imperfection element that makes my artwork feel a little bit better.
So as I'm watching you guys draw, I'm wondering where you're going to end up with color. How do you guys choose your color palettes?
Oof.
I literally wing it. I wish I had a method because like color is such a big like factor in my art. For like because like for the longest time I didn't have actually a distinct drawing style. I was just like I just kind of drew however I was like feeling that day, but like my color was always what set me apart from other people. So honestly, I'm very big on cool colors, and I just like literally just pick what it looks nice to me. I can't I feel like if you overthink it, it just doesn't look right. I mean, I do follow like general like kind of like rules for color theory. It's like okay, like cooler colors in the shadows, cooler like warmer colors with things that are exposed to light, et cetera, et cetera. But that doesn't always, that's not like the golden rule. You have to always follow it. You can always break that rule. It's just like however I'm feeling. And then sometimes I'll like do those like things where it's like the color palette generator, and I'm like I'll just pull from that. So
Nice. For me, I'm kind of like Lucy. I just kind of wing it for the most part. Um, I definitely think I lean towards earthy tones slash warmer tones. I do use a lot of like um, dark red or dark blues. Um, I do actually on Instagram as well. I have another collection that's called color palettes. So if I see a photograph or an artwork that I think like, oh my gosh, I love the colors, save it, use it for later, and try to get inspired from it. Overall, I just kind of follow the basics as well. So like, don't shade with black, shade with like a darker red or a darker blue, depending on what you're going for, or darker green even. And yeah, I kind of really wish I went into more like a color theory class in SVA, but I never had the time to do so.
Well, I'm looking forward to see some color here in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Another question from Facebook. This is from Edwin Wallace. Do you ever become impatient when drawing a picture and find yourself rushing to complete it?
Oh my gosh.
oh god, yes, all the time, all the time.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you go first, Lucy.
Oh, okay. Basically, that's like my entire like lifestyle. So like I'm like a huge like I don't know. I can't turn off my brain when I'm like working. Like for me, I like will sit awake at night being like, "Oh my God, I didn't finish that piece. Oh my God, I didn't finish that piece." And like I cannot be at peace until I finish. So like I have this bad habit of like staying up to like 5 in the morning to finish things. Please do not do that. Um, it's just I don't know. I have to break that habit. That's like one of the things I'm working on now that I'm like out of school, because it's something that I got like unfortunately used to when I was in school. Just like trying to bang things out as quickly as possible because you have deadlines. But like there is definitely a positive to taking your time, because number one, it's nicer on your hands. Because I find that when you like trying to bum rush something, you're more likely to abuse your hands and your back and your eyes. And other than that too, I feel like when you bum rush it and then you look at it the next day, it's like, holy crap, what is this? And you start over anyway. So it's like, what was that for?
I definitely relate. Story of my life. Yeah, sometimes, especially with client projects, I'm like, just want to get this done so I could just move on with my life. Not that I don't like the projects, it's just that's how I end up thinking. That's my mindset a little bit. Because when I always feel like hanging over my head and I'm like eating or watching TV or like sleeping, I'm like thinking, I still have a project that's undone. I still have a project that's undone. And I do rush it sometimes, and I do kind of regret it, kind of like how Lucy described it. Because you definitely notice there is a difference when you take the time and love in an artwork and when you just rush it and you don't care. I definitely see my personal illustrations take effect whenever I'm trying to post consistently on Instagram. And sometimes if I don't schedule my work, I'll like run out of time and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's almost Monday. Then I need to get this done just to post something, and I'll whip up something quickly. And usually the next day I end up not liking it and archiving it. And I'm like, I just wasted time. So definitely just try to like turn off your brain when you're like away from your projects so you can give it the proper attention when you come back, even though I still am practicing that myself.
Alexandra Zapata says, hello, I just graduated with my master's in digital design. I would like to start writing and drawing a webcomic. Do you have any tips for starting with Clip Studio Paint?
Ren, you can do this because you have more experience.
Yes. Honestly, also, I remember my first time with Clip Studio Paint. I technically started a webcomic with it when I was like in high school. It's dead. You can't find it. Don't try to find it. It's embarrassing, but I did make a webcomic when I was very young, and I do recommend to start a webcomic. You have to have a story that you are definitely passionate about, because if there's no passion, I think you're going to eventually run out of motivation from it. And you're going to like stop the project and you might feel a little bit guilty. I definitely have been in that road where I'm like, oh, I wasn't really passionate about this and now I don't want to do it anymore. So find the story, write the story, plan the story. It doesn't have to be like an elaborate script, but definitely do some bullet points of like events that happen in your webcomic. And find a style you're going to be comfortable with to draw consistently throughout your webcomic. Don't try to be Leonardo da Vinci in each page.
I would have said DiCaprio, you're good. Like
And yeah, and because you're going to get really worn out really fast, and you have to post consistently if you want a good audience. So spare yourself. Like I do realistic portraits. This is nothing like my realistic portrait style. And I did this to spare myself some headaches and hand aches, because I know it's really hard to keep up a really realistic art style for webcomics. And my last advice would be discipline yourself a little bit, at least, to post consistently. If you kind of know that you're the type of person that will maybe not post consistently, my advice would then be to you, draw a few pages, maybe like 5 at least, before you even start publishing your webcomic online. So at least when you could take like a week off, you still have a page, like there's a buffer and like you're posting. I hope that makes sense.
No, that's great advice. I'm actually like, okay, taking notes.
Do you guys have any Clip Studio Paint specific advice for starting a comic?
I will have to say, since I've been using it since like 2016, when it comes to Clip Studio and stuff like that, please optimize your workflow. So like in Clip Studio, you can save your workspace and like just reload it if you like switch to a new like machine or anything like that. Like really optimize it. So I see some people doing gymnastics just to reach the layer panel. Like don't do that. Like figure, like pop out the panels, like move it around, like accommodate it to how you need it and stuff like that. Like, you know, like say like if you're somebody like me who has like a massive tablet and I have to like literally move my entire arm just to like reach like, you know, the color wheel, like, you know, move stuff around and stuff like that, like optimize your workspace. I feel like a lot of like half the battle is like making sure that everything is working for you appropriately. Like when I graduated, the first thing I did was buy myself a proper machine because I've been using the same like MacBook 2016 since I started school. So like, you know, and then I got myself an arm, so like my arm, like my shoulder wasn't floating the whole time and stuff like that. Like you find that you work quicker when you have the proper tools. A lot of people will tell you that your tools don't matter, it's like your work and whatever, but like your tools definitely matter, especially when it comes to your health of your hands and your back and your eyes.
I completely agree. I would just only add, make sure you take full advantage of like shortcuts.
That too.
You don't want to waste your time looking around. Just click a couple of buttons and you're already at your best.
Actually, that actually reminds me of something specific to Clip Studio. So a lot of the Clip Studio has the ability to let you use like what's it called, 3D models and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Use that stuff, man. Like use that. If I knew, like if I knew that when I was doing Thesis, oh my God, like so much would have like changed. Because like a lot of the time I was like, I don't know how to draw a desk in perspective, and I couldn't find the right like freaking photo, and I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And I'll like take my own photos, and then like lo and behold, I could have just got like a chair 3D model and then moved it to whatever perspective I needed it to be in. Like that helps so much when you're doing comics. So you could just like build your background in 3D and then trace over it in any perspective you need it. And then there's also 3D models that you can pose and stuff like that. And like I know people will be like, oh my God, that's cheating. No, it's not. Why is that cheating? It's not. You made the assets yourself. You're just trying to streamline your stuff. You're pumping out like content like there's no tomorrow. Make it easy on yourself. Why are you going to do that for like, I don't know, like artist integrity points?
Exactly. And also the great thing about Clip Studio Paint is that they have like frame border and speech bubble. It's just great. And I think there's also like a pattern brush.
Yeah, there's pattern brushes too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comic specific stuff actually. Like that's why I try to get into more comic stuff, because Clip Studio has a lot of comic things that does stuff for you. They make like panels for you automatically, and they mask the panel off for you so you don't go out of the panel. Like that's such a godsend. I feel like a barbarian doing it the way I was doing it.
Awesome. So an anonymous attendee wants to know, do either of you write in addition to being artists?
I got back into writing recently. Like I do like fanfic. But like I co-write my comic that's coming up with my partner. Because like I found a person who was really, really interested in my story on Twitter, believe it or not. Twitter is a freaking great place. And he was like, oh my God, I want to write for your story. I really love like the concept and stuff like that. So we just kind of like back and forth write with each other, since I'm like somewhat of the brainchild. But like I'm not like a major writer or anything like that. I make like cute little stories for like fanfic when I'm bored and I don't want to like draw anymore. But other than that, I don't.
I definitely write for my comics, my personal comic, not this one I'm drawing right now. And I definitely have written for, I think, a personal like TV idea show that I had with my husband, and then Thesis happened, and so I couldn't go full through with it.
A ski thesis.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, my personal comic, I definitely am going back to writing for that, because I used to think that you could just draw a comic without writing it. I'm totally wrong when I thought that. Don't think you could do that. It's disorganized, and you're gonna go to like a stump in a place where you're like drawing, you're like, what next? Oh gosh, I didn't plan this ahead. Yeah, so I do kind of write. I do like writing. If you mean by literal sense, I do like writing essays on art history. But that was back in school. I don't do that now.
Wow, scholarly.
If I wasn't an artist, I would have been an art critic.
Nice.
So, speaking of writing, you both mentioned that you both had to work on a thesis before you graduated. Do you guys want to talk about your projects a little bit?
Yeah.
You go first.
Okay. All right. So, so my thesis film was a 2D and live action hybrid. So think like Amazing World of Gumball, and that's basically my thesis. If it had a child with Spider-Verse, and My Hero Academia. And I basically did it that way because like me and Ren were in similar boats but not quite. So we both wanted to incorporate a lot of illustration and a lot of design into our theses, but we didn't really know exactly how, and it had to be kind of like in somewhat of a film format. So we're like, oh wait, gosh, like how are we gonna do this? But I was like, okay, so I'm gonna do a 2D and live action film, kind of like Amazing World of Gumball, so I can stand out. Because the idea was that we would have a screening at the end of the year at the SVA theater, and there's like, I don't know, like 40, 50 films playing, and you don't want people to be like, just look at your film and not remember you. You want to stand out, especially since recruiters show up. So I did it that way because it was the most budget friendly for me, because animation doesn't really require a lot of money, and it was like my way of showing people who I was as an artist, because I felt like the time that I was at SV I didn't get to really show who I was to people in terms of like artist stuff. And it's funny that like Ren mentions Eric, or Professor. It was him who like kind of shook me out of my like days, and because I wanted to do VFX and then do it live action completely. And he kind of looks at me and he sees my concept art that I did for my characters that kind of looks like this right here, like, but a little less polished because I was like a junior. And he goes, I only see you smile when you draw. So why don't you do that? And I just kind of looked at him like he was nuts, but I'm like, God, he's right. So I was like, no, screw it. I'm just gonna do animation. I don't care if I don't know. I'm just gonna do it that way. It's the way I'm the most happy that way. Because I'm like, I was miserable trying to do VFX, and then like, no shade to the people over at school, but like I felt like I was being forced into doing VFX and live action because I wanted to fit in. And a lot of professors are not equipped to help you to do like projects like that. Except for our professor, clearly. But yeah, so I did it that way, and it was really, really hard for me because I had never animated in my life. I had like literally 5 animators from the 2D department who were like juniors at the time helping me out, and I was literally just winging it. I'm like, I don't know how any pipeline of this works. I'm just gonna do my best. And yeah, like, so in my thesis film, it was like about it's this part of New York City called Inwood. It has a huge Dominican population, and that's where I actually was raised, and I grew up there partially before I moved to New Jersey. And I felt like I kind of owed it to my community to give them something. And it was kind of like a really cool way of like kind of debuting as an artist. And so I did the school. I did my thesis film kind of based off the kids that I would see walking home from school every day. Like, it was like their uniform straight out. It was like the blue polo and the khakis and the Jordans, and it was just like kind of like a superhero take on like their day-to-day life, and just talking about being an immigrant. What does it mean to be a child of an immigrant? What challenges do you face? What's the relationship between mother and daughter in immigrant households, specifically to Dominicans, and like that, and kind of having that kind of catharsis and kind of airing out my feelings about my culture and my family, because it was really, really hard for me to convince my family to let me be an artist, because a lot of my family members were only doing labor jobs. So when I told them I wanted to be an artist, that was the weirdest thing in the world for them. So
Nice. For me, my thesis, I'm Peruvian American. So my thesis film was about the culture and the history and the diversity in Peruvian cuisine. Because I definitely knew right off the bat that I was like, I want to make it about my Peruvian culture. And so I was like, okay, how? Originally, I kind of thought about like the Incan lifestyle, make a hero in that kind of timeline. But then I think Eric, our professor, was like, because I think I was doing like a very flat, minimal illustration of people. And then he knew how like detailed I can be with my illustrations. And he's like, do something with that. And I was like, okay. So then I thought about it really hard. I'm like, okay, what else about Peruvian culture do I really like or admire? And I was thinking about like food, because my mom cooks bomb good food. My grandma, both my grandmas do, aunts, everyone. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a little 2D motion graphics film about Peruvian cuisine. And I wrote my essay because I did a lot of research, and I was like, I'm gonna write an essay, because that was basically the narration was just like a, people said it looked like a TED Talk animation, like those what's it
Like an
called?
infographic?
Yeah, exactly. So I went with it. I stylized what I'm gonna exactly draw the food like, and how I'm gonna draw the people like, and the environment. And Eric encouraged me to pitch it to his class of juniors, and then I did for 2 classes, I think. And I got my team. Shout out to Javi, Isabella, and oh my gosh, why am I spacing out? No, not now. Casey and the whole gang there, because they were really helping me a lot in my illustrations, because I did a ton of illustrations for 2 years. My hand still kind of cramps. It's like traumatized from all this post-traumatic stress on my hand. My husband is the voice narrator, and he helped me a lot, because basically it was so low budget. I think I only spent like $90 on the whole project, which is pretty nice on me.
Wow, could it be me?
But yours is so good, Lucy. It's definitely worth the money.
Ren, I struggled so much, but continue, please.
Yeah. Oh, and it definitely got me what I wanted. The goal was to get a job, and I got a job. But also, finally, it got into a film festival. It's going to be showcased in the 29th, I think Thursday 29th at MetroCaf. If you follow me on Instagram, I'll definitely announce it there soon. And yeah, I just kind of give credit to Eric, because obviously he kind of like really helps you and me to like find what do we want to showcase, because I definitely felt that guilt where it's like I declared I was VFX focused, and then by junior year I was like, I don't like VFX, I hate rotoscoping, I don't want to do this, it's not illustrative enough.
Yeah, and then that was kind of like my only criticism of the department, that it didn't allow for people who are more like concept and like visual and pre-production people to kind of flourish. And to be fair, it's like, I understand that it's like, oh, well, like, why are you there if that's what you want to do? But like, there was no other option. Like, computer art was like the closest thing. So like, yeah, it was really difficult. I found myself working alone a lot. Like, I would meet with my professors at thesis class every day. It was basically study hall. Like, because like my like thesis professor's like, you need me? I'm like, no. He goes, okay, see you next week. And that was it.
Oh
Oh
my
my God.
gosh. Same. That's the same with one professor. But my thesis professor, Anka, definitely helped me a lot. She was 3D. The whole class is mostly 3D. I think it was everyone but me and someone else was 3D. But she definitely helped me a lot, because she was very concept focused. Yes. Mm-hmm. So if you ever go through thesis, find the right professors who will support you.
Mm-hmm. True.
Awesome. I love that you guys added kind of a personal touch to your thesis. That's very cool. And congratulations to both of you for completing them. I'm sure that was not an easy task.
Oh, definitely not. It's like like completing a film during quarantine on like a computer that's gonna explode any minute now. That was fun. Like
oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness, I can't even imagine. I want to mention, we'll put your Instagram handles in the chat so you guys can go check out their thesis films. I believe both of you have them on IGTV, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Perfect. So yeah, you can go ahead and check out their films and see what they're talking about. We have a question from Lydia. Do you have any basic advice for incoming freshmen going into art school, like classes you should optimize, tools to have going in, where to look for inspiration, etc.?
You can go first.
Okay. So when it comes to like being an incoming freshman for art school, I think the most important thing that I could tell you is to don't be an artist 24/7. That is the
Mm-hmm.
most important. I developed so much anxiety my freshman year because I was such a high achiever in high school, and I was so accustomed to that when I got to college and things weren't as easy as it was in high school, I began to shut down. And I was just constantly trying to focus on my work, and I'm like, no, I can't. If I'm not working, I'm not being useful. If I'm not working, I'm not being productive. If I'm not working, I'm like, I feel bad. But like as time went on, and as I became like a junior and a sophomore and a senior, and I started going out a little bit more and being a little bit more lax with myself and being a little bit more kind to myself, that's when I started to really, really flourish and really enjoy my time and put out and output the most creative things. Always leave time for yourself to be human. That's what I have to tell you, is that I am trying to relearn that. But I don't, if I can avoid some people making that same mistake, like by all means, do not wrap yourself up in work all the time to the point where you don't even socialize anymore. I knew people who would stay so long in the labs that they wouldn't see the sun for days because like our labs didn't have windows. So it's like, don't do that to yourself. Like, we're human beings, we socialize, we like to go out, we like to enjoy things, like, and you can't be an artist and put your best foot forward if you're not living life. So, and aside from that, be wise with your time. Don't procrastinate, because I knew a lot of people who were like, oh no, it's fine, like I got it, I'll just do it later. And then like that render time hits you with that 6 hours and you're like, crap. And so like, do your stuff ahead of time if you can. Try to like, have a healthy relationship with your work and optimize your time, because it's only going to help you in the future when you're a professional. Because when you're working with a client, you can't just be like, yeah, I'm just going to leave it to the last second. They told me at 4 o'clock it's due, I'm going to do it the night before. And then like you're screwed because you're hitting all these roadblocks. Um, and then aside from that, do not compare yourself to other people. Please do not do this. I had a lot of breakdowns because of this, because I felt like I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't like the art, like I wasn't getting as much praise as other people. And I think that's what prevented me from, showing who I really was. I felt like I was putting up a front the whole time while I was there. And it wasn't until junior year when Eric talked to me and kind of snapped me out of it. I was like, oh my God, I've been hiding who I am this whole time. Like, I have this whole other life that people haven't even seen at school. And then the moment I started embracing my illustrative side and trying to find ways to incorporate that into my stuff and being me, things got so much easier. So it's not so much work and tools and stuff like that I can really like recommend it to you, because like tools is like whatever works for you. But what's more important, like a most important tool, I guess, it's like the mindset that you go into, because art school can really break you, as you can probably see in the memes. And in that, the reason why it does break you is that a lot of people go in with these expectations that don't come to fruition. So just know what you're walking into. You're there to, first of all, network and make connections, and to, better yourself as an artist. But most importantly, like, school isn't your entire life either. Like, you can live life. You can go to a party. You can eat that cupcake. You can go see that movie. Like, yeah, that's all I can really say.
That is the best advice. Copy paste what Lucy said. Definitely
Especially eat that
agree.
cupcake. I'm gonna highlight.
Yeah.
Treat yourself.
Exactly.
Yes. We have a question from Facebook. Do you have some tips for how to post on social media, like Instagram?
Oh, that's a good question. You can hit this one, Ren.
I'm definitely learning more and more, especially for my husband, because he does this for his social media as well, since he's an actor and he needs that coin through social media. Post consistently. It's literally the advice I've been told, and it's the same advice I will give to anyone. Post consistently, pick a day, pick a time. I think if you put your page as a business, it'll give you insights. I'm not sure if they do that with only personal.
You could do creator things. You don't have to be a business per se. You can be like a creator, and then it'll give you insights. Yeah.
Yeah, so that. And I think they'll show you like the best day where you have the most followers active. And then you click that and you shows you the best time when they're the most active. And you pick a time, pick a day, post every single day, and post consistently. Also, one bad thing about me in social media is that I did not stick to a certain style or subject a lot of the times. So a lot of my followers used to either unfollow me or not like it, and I'm like, okay. So it's a little bit it depends. If you don't care, all power to you. Post whatever you want. But if you do want following, there is a formula. Yeah.
I guess in terms of for social media, not I guess like when to post, but it's like how to post. When you make your Instagram stuff, make it a 1-to-1 ratio because Instagram only does squares. And then aside from that, save as JPEG and then upload it as JPEG because if you do anything besides JPEG, Instagram does this weird thing where it compresses it and it looks really ugly. And then don't overwhelm yourself with hashtags because then like the algorithm thinks it's spam.
Yeah.
Like use a maximum of 5 hashtags. What else? Also, like have a consistent aesthetic. Like I don't even do this, but like I see other people doing this and it works for them. Like have a distinct color palette or distinct like kind of format. You don't have to stick to it like strictly, but like it helps because it makes it look more organized and more appealing to people who are following you. And I also notice is that faces get a lot of like traction when it gets recommended to people. Like people like to see faces and stuff like that. I noticed that bigger, like more fantastical pieces only work for people who already have followings. Yeah. And like, yeah, the algorithm also prioritizes faces. And aside from that, I think also like just a side note for Twitter, I know the Twitter crop is like the enemy to all artists everywhere because it crops really unflattering. The trick for that is that it prefers text. So when you post to Twitter, put like a little piece of text near the face and it'll crop right on the face. So that's my Twitter posting and Instagram posting 101 for y'all.
That's all interesting. I have a little tip to add too. I actually learned this from another webinar. Somebody mentioned that if you put one of the Instagram filters on your post, and it doesn't even have to be on like full strength or anything, you could just put it at level 1, it also prioritizes your post. I don't know if that's true or not, but just throwing that out there. I thought it was interesting. So this is kind of a fun question. As young graduates, what do you see as your ideal / dream job?
Oh, okay.
Do you want the professional question or do you want the deep, dark secret, the self-denial answer?
The juicy details.
I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
I would definitely like to be a very successful motion graphics designer. I guess if I were to be super honest, if I could freelance remotely for the rest of my life while getting paid big bucks, that would satisfy me. But deep down inside, I know my child self is screaming, be a comic book artist. So I definitely want to publish my own comic books eventually. I should do it soon, but eventually, not now. I need to make money first.
I guess for me, it's like, yeah, this is gonna sound so ambitious, but this is my dream. Like I want to be a showrunner really, really bad. Like I deeply, deeply want it. I know like the last one, like you guys had like Wacom had a webinar with like Jorge Guiterres from the Book of Life. Oh my God, he's my savior. Like I love him so much. Like I love the Book of Life so much, and it's what inspired me to be a showrunner. And I was like, oh my God, if I could be a showrunner and like turn my thesis film into like an episodic series, I would die. Oh my God. Like it's just, I don't know. I would love to do that. And then like maybe have like a successful like webcomic as well. Like if like I do, I mean, I plan on like following through with it, of course. I just don't know when that would be. But and then aside from that, like if I make a lot of money, hopefully I do, but if it does happen, I really, really, really want to go into advocacy and like activism for art, because like a lot of funding for art has been pulled in recent years, and I don't think that's fair. And then a lot of people that I know, a lot of their hangups about being an artist, it has to do a lot with money. And, you know, I get that. Like when I was doing my thesis film, my biggest problem was money. I didn't have enough money to do a lot of the things that I wanted to do. And if I had the funds or like the, you know, the financial support to do that, I feel like things would have turned out a lot differently. And I wouldn't have to struggle as much as I did. So if I had a lot of money, I really want to do like I don't know, like no obligation grants or like a foundation where like to help Black and Latino or Hispanic and Indigenous people get funds for art and like get them resources, and like even maybe do educational things for their parents, so it's not such a struggle for their parents to understand what they're doing, and them for to understand like what their career is, because we're in this weird middle area where a lot of children of immigrants are growing up and they want to do these careers that are not usually done in these communities or accustomed to. So a lot of their parents are kind of like, I don't know what that is. Does that even make any money? And like these kids are not properly equipped to explain properly. So I would love to be that middle person to like explain to them about these careers and like hopefully like get more diverse people into art, because it's very like monolithic right now. And yeah, that's just like a thing I hold very dear to my heart, and that'd be super cool to do.
So sweet.
That's great. So we have a ton of questions about this in the Q&A. How do you often handle art block?
Ooh. I took a class specifically to handle it. But do you want to go first, Lucy, or should I?
No, yeah, go ahead. You took a class. I want to hear this.
Okay. In SVA, they offered I think it's called creative psychology class, and it actually did like teach you how to deal with like art block, and kind of like the questions before where it's about like how to get inspired. It's kind of the same thing. She kind of recommended where it's like take yourself on artist dates, just you, not like your significant other, or like watch a movie to inspire you, or go to a museum to inspire you. What did you do to fuel yourself as an artist? That's honestly, ever since I took that class, I never had art block. Surprisingly enough, I'm not sure if it's a coincidence, but if you honestly follow that advice of just taking more inspiration and consuming to like feed yourself in terms of art and inspiration, you will be able to overcome things. But also she advised is to rest. You have to rest. If you're not resting, you're going to burn yourself out one way or another. It's going to happen. So avoid that. Relax, treat yourself. I remember saying that in SVA now. I said that so many times.
Oh my God, yeah. Every time I see you in the hallway, and I'm like, Ren, I can't do this. And you're like, treat yourself, Lucy, treat yourself.
Yes, exactly. That was my answer to everything. Treat yourself. That's why I was eating. Look, they're going to know eventually. But I don't know if Jimmy exactly knows, but I used to eat a lot in the labs.
Oh my God, you would bring like these sushi platters, always look so freaking good. And I'm like, Ren.
I was like treating myself. I was like, I deserve this.
Mm-hmm.
I finished a project. So that's how you should treat yourself. Go on a date with yourself. Go to a cute art museum or a nice little gallery, or have like a artist date with yourself where you go to the park and draw a bunch of things. You know, live life. Like going back to Lucy's advice, live life. Live, love, laugh.
Oh my gosh, art block. I think everything like Ren said, I'm just gonna echo that, because like honestly, it's like I'm like one of those people that like I don't think I suffered art block as much as a lot of people seem to have experienced it, because I always find myself in a situation where like I never have enough time to draw all the things that I want. But a lot of art block, like I get art block in a way that it's not like, oh, I don't know what to draw, is that nothing I draw is coming out right. I get that so much. And it's like it has a lot to do with my mindset. So like I know like I struggle a lot to explain this to my parents, because I like tell them like, listen, if I am not vibing, like if my vibes are not correct, I cannot draw. And they're like, that sounds so fake. And I'm like, no, I promise you that's how it is. Like my hands like literally do not function if like my vibes are off, and they're like, okay. But it's so true. As soon as I take a nap and I get up and I'm like, and I love to nap. I'll nap. I have like I have an alarm set for every hour of the day because that's how much I nap. I after I get up from a nap and I'm like, I feel refreshed, and then I draw and then my hands work again and I'm like, yay. So
Yes.
yeah, rest please.
Napping. Oh my gosh. Napping is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Good advice. I like the idea of taking yourself on an art date. That sounds very cute. Luci, this question is for you. What headset are you wearing?
I'm gonna like lower myself a little bit. I am wearing the Razer Kraken Kitty ear edition thing. I know they just came out with a Bluetooth version, which I would love to have known because I hate wires, but I have it now. Um, and it's great. I have it on rave mode that I customize myself, and it's great at night, but it's daytime right now, so it doesn't look as pretty. But yeah, I love RGB stuff, but I think these were like $80. I don't know how much they are now, but they're cute and worth it.
We stand aesthetics.
I know.
Very cute. An anonymous attendee is asking, when creating a character, what are some of the visual characteristics do you consider or reject?
That's a good question.
Luci, you first.
Oh my God. Yeah, I guess I'm the person to ask because I just constantly make characters and then they.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I'm making characters, I literally just try to think of like what their personality is like and then make their physical attributes around that, because like I find that's a really good indicator about like people's personalities. It's how they present themselves, how they dress and stuff like that. And there's also like shape language too. It's like for example, like very like almond slanted eyes, like not slanted but like more like longer and smaller eyes is kind of like associated with like mischievousness or like plotting, stuff like that. And I guess like I don't reject certain things because like I mean I guess I do reject certain things. I'm not big on drawing muscle and stuff like that. That's just I'm not that great, but I'm slowly getting there. I'm forcing myself to do a UFC AU, and that's a lot of muscle. So I'm getting there. But I don't really necessarily reject anything. Like I like drawing like diverse body types and different facial features and phenotypes and stuff like that, like and just exploring and seeing how that would look in my art style. I guess if I reject anything, it's usually like drawing armor because I suck at that, but I will get there eventually. I just try to draw like whatever is the most accurate to what I'm trying to represent. Like for example, this is like my OC Luna, and she's like she's like a big fashionista. Like she's very edgy fashion, and like I was like, oh, like what's fashionista? Like the choppy bangs, like the piercings, like the jacket that's way too big that you got from the thrift store, like like it's just I don't know. It's just I consume so much fashion, and I love to analyze people's fashion. And SVA is a great place to look for fashion. Those like international students are like literally runway models, and I would just like peep their outfit. I'm like, bro, I look like a potato sack because I'm wearing sweatpants, but she's wearing Gucci and she has like a Versace like pencil case. Like like I don't know. I just look at people's outfits and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like take mental note of that and like what their personality is like. So if I want to make a character that has their similar personality, I'm like, well, this person kind of dresses that way, so I'll do something similar to that.
Very nice. Oh, wow, I don't know if I could compete with that.
Oh
no. I guess I'll talk about Amanda, which is the protag of this comic, Mimic. This is her child self. This is her grown up. That's 2 years old. I definitely want to fix the anatomy someday. So my partner, his name's Andrew, he wanted, like, her superpowers is to copy others when she comes into contact with other people who have superpowers. So he wanted, I think, bleached hair for her. And he said, I think, quote unquote, clean slate. So I kind of like wanted to see the, like, what was her age? What's her race? Where is she from? I think the setting is in Washington, D.C. So I definitely wanted her hair to express herself. I forgot if the bleach hair was my idea or his idea, but either way, I put it like actually like almost white, so it's like clean slate, but it shows the roots because she's also kind of a messy kind of gal, and she kind of like drinks, so she doesn't really take care of herself. For the eyes, I put a little bit more like darkening or like wrinkles because she kind of like goes through a lot, and I kind of want that expressed. I definitely focus on faces more, and the face shapes to express the personalities of my character. Clothes are very important. I agree with Lucy. Copy paste. I definitely also like going to parks for inspiration and just sit on a bench and just watch people walk by.
People watching.
Yeah, exactly. It may be a little bit creepy, but I actually look at people like, how are they shaped? Because everything to the foundation is basic shapes of triangles, squares, and circles, believe it or not. And kind of like how you were describing mischievous eyes, how they're shaped a certain way. Like triangle, pointy edges are usually associated with like mischievous or like cunning, and round is usually associated with like welcoming or friendly. Square is more like strong and like grounded. Something you have to like learn the basics of shape theory and even color theory, because I want to associate Amanda with red because I feel like her life is chaotic a little bit, and it's like a new uncontrollable power, and I kind of lean towards red because it's more like that chaotic fire. And what I stray away from, honestly, I don't stray away from clothes, any type of clothes. I do stray away from cars, but
Yeah.
I have to draw it. I have to. I cannot avoid it. And you're going to have to draw a lot of things. That's when you use references the most. Don't draw from imagination. Look at other people. Look at real life. Because what's that saying? Art imitates life.
Yes.
That is all very good advice. So we have a couple questions about art style in specific. How did you two go about finding your unique style?
Oh, buddy. Okay.
Oh gosh.
I have a
You first.
so I have a story about that. I actually had like a mental breakdown, I think, right before I started school, like SVA, because I didn't have an art style. Like I actually called my boyfriend on the phone and I started to sob because I didn't have one. And it's silly now that I think back on it because I was like so dramatic. I didn't have to do that, but like it's a real like struggle for people who are you know new to the art world, or like they're like up and coming and they're like, oh my god, I don't have a distinct art style, what do I do? Relax. Just first of all, relax. It will happen to you eventually. I can't tell you when though, because for me, when I found my art style, I was literally just mishmashing different parts of people's art styles that I liked and being like, well, I like how she draws noses, I like how she draws eyes, I like how she does hair, and then let me just make it into my own little Frankenstein. That is literally how I did it. And eventually like it came to me after some practice, because like a lot of people don't know this, but you have to actually practice your art style. And it'll eventually come to you. But yeah, it's literally just like look at other people's art. Like, do you like how she draws noses? Well, copy her nose and then combine it with so and so's like eyes or something. That is literally what you can like. That's how I did it. I can't guarantee it will work for you, but that's something you can do. And like, just remember, art style is just a particular way a certain person draws a certain thing. So, and it's always changing. How I drew like last year is not nearly close to how I draw now. Like, if you look at my concept art on my Instagram of my thesis film, what I'm drawing right now is not even close to what I was. So it's always evolving. And art style is not nearly as important as like then like just making like good art. Like, if is it good, is it interesting, cool. I don't think anybody really cares about art style that much unless you're developing a show. But if you're just starting out, like, just be a little kinder to yourself. You don't have to like have everything off the bat. Like, you have time to grow. And I feel like also too with the art style thing is also derivative of like this generational thing that everybody's feeling existential dread over, that like if we're not perfect off the cuff, then we're running out of time. And that's definitely not true. I definitely felt like that, especially in the beginning of quarantine. And then I had to like stop myself. And like, I was like, again, crying in a pizzeria parking lot because I can't go inside. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm only 22. What am I freaking out about? I have
18-year-olds.
time. Yeah, and then like especially if like, you're 15, like oh my gosh, you're 15, relax. Like it's like that Marge Simpson meme, like kids, can you lighten up a little bit? Like it's a lot. I'm not saying it's easy. Like you need to calm down and like be okay with yourself. You're not a robot. It's not like you can look at something right away and be like, yep, I know how to do this, and then you can. Yeah, like you're young, like you need to slow down. You have a lot of time. You all you have is time, basically.
That's wonderful. Inspirational.
Oh my God, yeah.
Definitely copy paste whatever Luci said. What else would I would say? I think your style is going to be like there's a spectrum. The one end is what your ideal style is. I want to be like this artist. And the other side is going to be your skill. Literally, it's going to be your hand control, your imagination control, your vision control, everything, your physical skill. And somewhere in the middle, you're going to find your style. I remember watching this YouTube video like a couple of years ago. I don't remember the title, but I'm pretty sure if you look up how to find your style, it might pop up, where this guy was talking about look at all of the artists that you like, find what you like about it, and kind of like what Luci said, like pick out what you like the most. I definitely did that with noses for some reason. Noses were something that I was like, oh, I don't know what to do for a nose. I'll just do an L. But then I saw like these little scratches on like one artist's like style, and I was like, I like that, so I picked it up. You definitely have to gather artists that you like in their line art, colors, and subject matters, and then you could combine all of them and try to make your own style. But again, also make it where you're comfortable with it. Don't try to like
force it. Yeah,
exactly. Don't try to draw the Mona Lisa if you still can't draw a cartoon apple yet. Like, take your time. There's no rush.
It should feel natural to you as well. That's another thing too. It's just like it should match your peculiarities and when you draw.
Yes, exactly. Like I said before, my realistic drawing, like portrait drawings, are nothing like my like comic book style, and that's for a good reason. Your style will have to be used in the proper
to accommodate what you're doing, right?
Yeah, like this proper genre.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I have a follow-up question to that from Anna. They say, how do you react to clients who want to order illustrations in a different style than yours?
I do that all the time.
The infamous question. So I usually do this thing that if people inquire about commissions, because this is what kind of shot me in the foot when I first started, is that people were like, yeah, can you draw this for me, but in this person's style? And I just kind of like look at them like, then why didn't you commission the person? But yeah, and it's like you have to be clear with your clients, be like, hey, I can like draw inspiration and be influenced from a certain thing that you want from me, but understand you're paying for my interpretation and for my skill set. So like if you're expecting something completely different, like say for example, I draw like semi-realism with anime, and somebody came up to me is like, hey, can you draw in the same style as Disney? I'd be like, no, because that's not my art style. I can like incorporate certain things, like kind of how they have like that paper mache, paper cutty kind of shadow box style. I can incorporate that into my art style, but it's still going to be mine. Like I'm not going to change certain things, like certain like key things about my art that makes it my art. And like more like experienced clients will like understand that and I'll give you flack about it. Somebody who's like, I guess, forgive the term, but a normie won't know that. So you have to just be clear and concise with people. And it's okay to say no to commissions. That's another thing too. Like it's okay to say no. You don't have to take everything that comes at you.
I totally misinterpreted the question. So I was like, I do that all the time. And then you explained it more, and I'm like, wait, no, I don't do that. I do have various styles. I think I'm like a McDonald's menu. I do have various things to offer to my clients, but I don't copy people's artwork. Like, here's a good example. Someone wanted their album cover to reflect, I think it was like 1940s, like old, very old Disney cartoon style, like with the like gloves and like the limbs and brown smiles. So I didn't copy the style per se, but I looked up a lot of inspiration and like references, and I'm like, okay, I understand what details make it 1940s cartoon style. So then I incorporated that into a new style and gave that to my client. I remember I had this one client who wanted like paintings, like look like realistic paintings. So I was like, okay, I can try. And so I would study like real painting, the texture. I think I picked like Impressionism at the time. So I studied Impressionism, and then I developed my own style, like Impressionism influenced, and I was able to deliver multiple paintings for that client. So that's just how I do it. You don't also have to, like Lucy said, take it. If you're not comfortable with it, don't take it. I'm only comfortable with like meshing my style only because I think I physically can. Because I've not found my style completely yet.
Good advice. I'm going to bring it back to comics here. Sammy Andra says, where do you think is the best place to publish a webcomic, and how do you publish your comic?
Webtoon. Yeah. I haven't published mine yet, but like I read some. Like Webtoon is definitely it. I don't know how to publish it though. Maybe Ren, if you have some insight.
Actually, to be honest, Lucy, I have published in Tapastic. I think it's called Tapas now. And I still do eventually plan on publishing in Tapas, because I heard like you have to do your own research about each of the websites. I think it's Tapas, Webtoons, I guess technically DeviantArt, but do you really want to post there for comments?
Is DeviantArt even alive?
I don't know. I didn't want Webtoons specifically because they do scrolling. And
yeah.
I like traditional comic page layout. So I lean towards Tapas. But if you like scrolling, and if you read a lot of comic Webtoons that scroll and you like it, you enjoy it, go for it. But there's also certain audiences, demographics. I know if you're more of like a comic book artist that wants to write about romance, I think Webtoons will have more of like an embrace for that. Tapas is more like a little bit more indie kind of thing. So I definitely recommend one of those two. You're just gonna have to figure out what's your comic.
Yeah, what's appropriate, yeah.
Yeah, and then which will be the best for it. Or you could just post in both.
Oh, that too. Cross-posting is also an option. I cross-post all the time.
Yes. I would say Instagram too, but I personally have not done that, and I don't know how you would post a comic. I know people have done it.
Instagram is like very like short, like 4 panels.
Oh yeah.
If you're digging like the 4-panel life, go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
This is an interesting question from an anonymous attendee. What sold you on going to SVA?
Oh, okay. For me, it was like, okay, this is kind of funny, but I was looking into art schools when I was a senior in high school, and my art teacher used to get like mail from the art schools all the time because like they're sending it to the high school kids because they want the high school kids to go. And we got this super fat white book, and I still have it. It's in my room right now, and it's a big white book where it describes all the like the courses and like kind of all the departments in SVA. And my teacher gave it to me, and he goes, "You're really good with like fur and stuff. Why don't you be a computer animator?" Because I was really, really good at detailing hair and fur. And I looked at it and I saw like Pixar stuff, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll do that. And that was it. I found out everything else afterward. Do not be like me. I literally went in so blind, and like I was just like, yeah, this is just gonna be what I need. But I didn't know anything because like again, like I didn't have anybody to guide me, and like not even my art teachers knew, because a lot of my art teachers like went to like community college that had art programs, but they never went to like an art school. So they were like, yeah, I don't know, you're gonna have to find out on your own. And then like I went to the one open house for SVA, but I had already decided I was going. I had already applied for early action, and it was the wrong open house. I went to the 2D
Oh my
animation open house,
gosh.
not the 3D one. So I was so confused when they started talking about Rebecca Sugar, and I was like, who is that? Like, I didn't know anybody. Like, Ren, I didn't know who anybody was.
Oh my
I came in
gosh.
knowing nothing. Like, and that's like the biggest problem I saw in me when I was younger, is that I didn't bother to like consume other people's art or like look into who made what, who did what. Now I do it, but before I didn't like do any of that stuff. So don't be like
Interesting.
me.
For me, what sold me to SVA? I think it was love at first sight, believe it or not. I'm that type
Yeah.
of person where I was like, my professor was like, my teacher, my high school teacher was like, I went to SVA, I think for like fine arts or design, basically not computer art. And so that night I looked up sva.com. I forgot what was the website. But anyways, look up SVA. And I was like looking at the website. I was like, I love this. I want it. I want to go. So there was no initial reason other than just looking at the website. But then I learned James Jean was an alumni there. And James Jean is my favorite artist ever. If you don't know him, I definitely recommend looking him up. It's James Jean, like the jeans pants. Um, and Rebecca Sugar was an alumni there, the creator of Steven Universe. I can't believe you didn't know that, Lucy.
I was living under a rock, like a literal rock. I remember seeing Steven Universe on TV and like asking my brother, because he was like 10 years old at the time. I'm like, what is this? He's like, oh, I don't know. It's like a kid who has a gem in his belly button. I'm like, that sounds weird. And then that was it. That was the only interaction I had with the show prior. Like,
Yes, that's a great way to pitch it.
I
Um,
know.
and I was deciding whether or not I wanted to be 2D or 3D. So I think also there were a lot of like professors there that were like famous comic book artists or illustrators. So I was pretty sold on the alumni. And then like I saw SVA in like 2 tours. I think it was private because I couldn't go to the like big one of like computer arts. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. The environment's great. The technology is pretty advanced. Because I went to other art schools, and I'm not sure if it was just that tour, but I didn't find as many schools with as advanced technology as SVA did.
That's
Um,
very true.
yeah, and it seemed very friendly, and it was New York, so like,
Yeah.
yeah, Jersey girl. I always visited New York. I never like really explored it myself, so I was like, heck yeah, I can go myself and explore it by myself. I could do this, and it was just very exciting. So it was a lot of reasons, and also connections. I know that practically that was also the reason too.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Isaac Rangel is wondering, did you use other art programs before Clip Studio Paint?
Oh yeah. I tried every single one under the sun actually before I landed on Clip Studio. It was funny because I didn't know Clip Studio used to be Manga Studio, and I remember being 11 and wanting it so bad, and my dad was like, "No, I don't know what that is," so he didn't buy it for me. It was really sad. And um, I wanted Psy initially, and I got like a cracked version of Psy, but like it was like supposed to be on like the Mac, but it didn't work. So like the pen pressure didn't work, and that was like for like a week. And then I was working on I don't know if anybody knows, it's Fire Alpaca. It's kind
No.
of like Psy, but it's for like it's Mac friendly. So I was on that for like a while, and then I actually used Procreate Beta
Oh
on
my
the iPad
gosh.
Air. It's because I'm that old. Like like I was like basically trying out all like the art programs and stuff like that. I think there was like this like one thing that Wacom had for a little bit. It was like the paper something. I
Mm.
don't remember what it was. It was like paper something, and it was available for the iPad. And Yeah, I was using Procreate for a little bit before it was like the Procreate that we know now. It was like still in its beta stages. And then I switched over to Fire Alpaca, and I used that until my sophomore year of college. And then I saw Clip Studio was having a 50% off sale, and I'm like, you know what? Let me go for it, because I don't vibe with Photoshop all that much, because Photoshop's too complicated for me. Like, I didn't want to have to sift through like several panels just to do something. So I was just like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. So when I switched to Clip Studio and I saw like how easy the brushes was, and like I was like my art was immediately better on like upon using it, I was like, yep, this is it. I'm never using anything ever again. I'm like uninstalling Photoshop as we speak. Um, and yeah, that was basically it.
Nice. I think Clip Studio Paint was technically my first art program. If memory serves right, it was my very first one. I remember drawing on it a lot. I think I was like 16. And I still use other programs because I kind of have to with my job and my thesis and everything. And also, I kind of like having more options because different artwork requires different tools. So I do use Photoshop. I do use Procreate. Clip Studio Paint, though, is really great for comics. I remember drawing my webcomic when I was young, and drawing comics now is pretty great with it. And it's just more focused on comics, which I deeply appreciate with Clip Studio Paint, honestly.
We have a question from Zoe. They said, have you ever tried 3D art? And then they added a ooh to that.
Yikes.
Yeah, we're 3D majors. Like, so they kind of like make you do 3D like the first year or two in SVA, depending on what route you took or what teachers you had. 3D hates me. Like, every time I do anything in Maya, it like always breaks. Like, my rig will break or something. It never worked out. Like, I remember I would do everything step by step, but it would still mess up. And like my teachers would look at it and they're like, how did you do that? Like, I was just so bad at it from the get. So I'm like, yep, this sucks. Cause I wanted to be a 3D person. I wanted to do grooming, which is like when you do like fur and hair simulation. That's what I wanted to do. But, you know, after the first year, I was like, yeah, this is not vibing. I'm not enjoying my time. Like, it's like that one meme. It's like, I'm straight up not having a good time right now. Like, and then when I discovered VFX and we did like our first video editing class and we did After Effects, I remember when we opened After Effects for the first time in Adam's class run, I was like, I feel like angels started to sing. I was like, this makes sense. And that's when I discovered I was more of a 2D person.
Oh my gosh. I'm getting like flashbacks right now. I remember freshman year, first 3D class. And do you know, well, okay, there was this one student who was like, we called him the Maya God. Maya is a 3D program. I remember just sitting there like all-nighters for 2 days. And I'm like, I finally did it. I finally did 3D art and like an animation. And then like he comes up with this like godsend of like an animation. And I'm like, yeah, I give up.
Yeah, there are some people who are great, like
Yes.
amazing.
Oh my gosh. It's like mind-blowing. But they had a passion for it. I saw it. They also had the skill, obviously. But for some reason, it just never clicked in me that I wanted to do 3D animation. I kind of guess I was kind of like Lucy. I kind of like lied to myself where it's like, oh yeah, I'm so inspired by 3D Disney films. When it was actually the case, I really liked animation, the Disney 2D animation films or flat look in animation. So that's why I eventually turned to motion graphics in my junior year because I was like so in denial that 3D was everything, but I never clicked. And I guess you just have to be honest with yourself on what kind of artwork you're going to focus on. And it will definitely help when you're as honest as possible in like as early as you can, so you can like spare yourself some time and headaches, and also like self-loathing because you compare yourself.
That too.
Yeah. So yeah, we've tried 3D for all of our lives. I mean, school lives. This doesn't click with us.
All right. This is an interesting question. Are your emotions affecting your drawings?
Like currently?
Ooh. Right now?
It could be past drawings, however you want to interpret it.
Oh, yeah. I would say I usually do a lot of fan art and stuff like that, so it usually doesn't really show. Like I don't do emotional pieces because I get embarrassed. Like I think I did a comic this one time about my boyfriend and I was literally dying inside from the embarrassment. And I'm like, why did I post that? But it got so many likes, so I just kept it. But um uh when I did Thesis, I think that was the most vulnerable I've ever been like in my whole like artist career. Because I was airing a lot of like I guess dirty laundry, if you want to call it that, um, about myself and how I felt and like a lot of my insecurities and then how my struggles that I would experience outside of school. Because the thing is that when you leave school and you don't dorm, because I also commuted, um, that's it. Like that's you're cut off from your friends technically. So like I was always jealous of people who dormed because it's like, oh, I don't get to really like interact with other people and like get to know them on a personal level because I'm only here for the time that I have class and then I leave again. So for Thesis, like I was like kind of like airing out a lot of my like emotions and it was kind of like catharsis for me, and you can really really see how emotional and like how stressed and how angry and upset and frustrated I was at myself and at my life and at my family and at my situation in my thesis film, just from dialogue, the expressions, like how certain things are framed and stuff like that. Like everything has a very purposeful use. So I would say that's the only time I let my emotions actually just carry me, because it was, useful. If I'm doing like a semi-autobiographical piece, then, it's kind of necessary.
Very nice. To answer that question, I would say honestly, I'm struggling to not reflect the emotion of the character I'm drawing right now. Because I'm not sure if you know that like meme where it's like if you're drawing someone happy, your face turns into happy.
Yeah.
You're drawing someone like crying, you look like you're in distress. So right now she looks like kind of like dead in the eyes. So I'm kind of like trying to like remember to smile. Don't look like her because I'm happy right now.
Mm-hmm.
But my instincts of my face is like I want to reflect it what I'm seeing. I will say, yeah, I feel like actually it's the opposite for me, where it's like whatever I'm drawing affects my emotions. Surprisingly enough, because I remember before I got my job, I was drawing my comic, and the character usually is in distress and sad or depressed or angry. And it actually got to a point where I had to stop myself and like take a break because I actually felt myself getting upset, even though there was nothing really there to upset me. So that answers that question. Oh, I do remember that, Eric, if you're ever going to do a thesis film, remember that you're going to work on it for a long time. And if you make something depressing or sad or angry, it will affect you. That's kind of why I lean towards like an infographic, because I was like, I don't want to be upset and I want to be happy and lighthearted when I am like making my film. So that's why I chose it more so like that. Yes, that's some advice.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Thank you guys for opening up and being vulnerable about that one. I just thought that was kind of an interesting question. I'm going to bring it back to a technical aspect. Somebody's asking any advice for shading, like which type of color should we use for eyes and hair?
Well, I guess like I can't tell you specifically what color to do, but my usual rule of thumb is that gradients are your best friend. It does like half of the heavy lifting. Don't go overboard because then it looks like you're using like the gradient tool in like MS Paint. But usually what I do is that specifically for hair, what I'll do is that like, just in real life, your hair, it's like your hair is the lightest at the top, darkest at the bottom when it comes to light. Or unless you're doing dyed hair, because then the roots would be darker, then the ends would be lighter. But usually, like say for example, in my character in my screen, like I have like my character's lightest point is at the top of the head, and then it gets more muted and more darker at the roots, not the roots, at the ends. And also I like to do this thing where like if I'm shading, like say this is like more of a burgundy color, like the base is over here, and then when I use my like shading, like it's more darker but more saturated. I usually go, that's how I like to shade my stuff. But usually the rule of thumb is that if you're doing shadows, don't think in terms of lightness and darkness, think of hues and values. So if you're doing something like that, it has a lot of shadow in it, the shadow should be like a cooler tone, and don't be afraid to use like kind of wacky colors. So I'll do this thing where like if I have an object that is say for example green, I will shade with like a navy blue, and then do this kind of like reflection right here, like this color over here. Let me untag. Like right over here, I will do like a lighter color to show that like the dark is not always completely dark. There's always some light in the dark. That sounds so like meta, but like
Beautiful.
Yeah, like if you add those things, it just ups your piece so much. And like sometimes I'll add gray or like kind of like, let me see if I can like pull up an example, do an example right now. Like I'll pull in like a very like lightly saturated gray, and like I would add it to like the piece, and like you see it like kind of adds some kind of variation to the shadow, because no shadow is completely flatly dark. I feel like there's a lot of things that like a lot of like new people to like color and stuff like that don't understand. So like adding some variation into your shadows and your lightness like does help a lot. Like sometimes I also do this thing where like after everything's said and done and I've completely colored, I will do a clipping mask to my entire piece and then add a bunch of overlay layers of different colors in specific spots to give more of a variation. I think it's called like, it's like kind of like a brute force version of a gradient map. So yeah, like let me see if I can like do an example right now. So like I'll put it set to overlay, and like say for example I like to shade with like a very tan color, kind of like this, and then I will do this thing where I go like this over the thing so it looks kind of like she's in sunlight, and then I will like lower it a little bit to bring more variation to the colors and stuff like that. So it like kind of ups your piece quite a bit. You see like it looks a lot cooler, and then you can also play with like the color that you pick as well, depending on like your use for it. So like you can see it kind of changing depending on what you need, depending on the lighting and stuff like that. That's how I kind of get away with lighting, actually. I don't actually color it that way. I just add like clipping masks with colors overlaid on top, and then I just have several of those, and then I mess with the opacity until it looks like something that I like.
Are you a teacher? Because that's very professional.
Really? Okay, I'll do tutorials, guys. That's what I'm doing now. It's my new business adventure.
Oh my gosh. Copy paste, kind of it. Yeah, that's kind of basically the foundation of it. Let's see if we can put up an example. Like well, it might be tiny when you try to look at it, but if I want to highlight, I usually go more towards the right in terms of color. So right now it's on an orange, so I'll lean it more towards like an orangey yellow, and then like move the circle like towards more the white. And that's usually how I find my highlight. How to shade is the kind of the opposite way. I switch my color a little bit more to the left, so it goes more down to orange red, and I bring my circle down to like the bottom right corner or bottom left, depending how saturated you want your shadow to be. Yes, and also I'm not sure if Lucy, you said this just now, but don't shade with black. I feel like shading with darker colors is more interesting. Yes. But whatever you said, Lucy, was like wonderful. Paragraph much?
Oh my God.
Thank you guys, and thank you for the little demos too. I'm sure that helped people a lot. We have a question from Aaliyah. Hopefully I'm not butchering your name. They said, hey there, do you have any advice on how to make my digital manga inking look a bit traditional, like a brush pack? I feel it's just too stiff.
Okay, so I'm gonna let you in on a little secret that I do. So in Clip Studio specifically, oh, it has it right here. So you see this right here. This is called the thin gouache brush. So a lot of people will like assume that you can only use inking, like pens for inking, and then paint brushes for painting. That is not true. You can use any kind of brush for whatever the heck you want. So what I'll do with the thin gouache brush is that I'll actually ink with it, and it kind of simulates kind of like a traditional pen, like an ink pen, or more like organic with texture. So as you can see right here, this has like a little bit like kind of like a bleeding ink effect. And I love to like kind of draw with it, and it gives like that very organic feel. It's a pain in the butt to paint bucket, but it's worth it. Yeah, like this is the thin gouache brush. and I love it. So I have the amount of paint to like a 90, and then the density, which is how like dense the paint is, or like I guess how opaque it is, to 100%, because like you're inking, and then it gives you this kind of look. And if you want more texture in it, you can lower the amount of paint, and then it like lets the texture bleed through just a little bit. You can use that one. Or I think it's I have this gouache brush pack. I don't even know where I got it from, to be honest. I think I got it off somebody in DeviantArt actually, like 2 years ago. And it has like a very nice like kind of traditional like look to it. And I love using this to ink as well. So I say look into gouache brush packs, because gouache has this like textured feel that like you don't really get in like the inking brushes. Or I know that like Sarah Jean, she has a Sumi brush pack as well, and like I have yet to download it, but like I've seen other people use it and it looks really, really cool.
I just buy mine. Yeah, I just find any ink brush that has that rough texture. I didn't get to see the brush demonstration, Lucy, because I can't quite see it. But I agree with whatever Lucy just said. Just I find usually stuff that are like sweet in the middle. It looks clean enough, but it's rough enough to look like it's textured and bleeding. I think sometimes they come with a preset of like stabilization, and sometimes I actually lower that because I don't want it to be too stiff. I kind of like that uncontrolled, messy look of like brush strokes.
Oh yeah, like lower your stabilization, because I see like when people like draw in Procreate, it's like correcting as they're drawing, and I don't know how people do that.
Yes.
Like
All right, we have just a couple minutes left, so I'd like to end on a fun question for you guys. What's your favorite thing to draw?
Oh my goodness.
Faces.
Yeah, faces, and I'm a huge sneakerhead, so I love drawing shoes.
Ooh. I definitely noticed that. And you also wear really good shoes, by the
Oh
way.
my God, yeah, my shoe game, ever since quarantine happened, I'm like, yes, I can focus on shoes. And like I've been buying a bunch of like shoes and stuff like that. And like, yeah, I'm like, whatever is the most audacious and like not tacky, but like I guess like whatever's like the loudest shoe thing, I'll buy. Like I love like getting like Jordans, or like I know Reebok just came out with their kamikazes, like, and they look cool because it's like a zigzag. Looks great.
Nice. Oh, my favorite thing to draw is actually myself, because I like doing self-portraits, maybe because I'm like the closest subject to myself. I definitely get inspired from Frida Kahlo and John Singer Sargent, because he does a lot of portrait artwork. So that's what I like to do, faces. Yes.
Cool. Ren, do you ever use a mirror when you're drawing your self-portraits, or do you draw from old photos of yourself?
I do technically draw from the mirror. It is a lot more difficult, and it's a little bit less accurate when I see, like, I did this one assignment for homework where it's like, draw yourself from a mirror and draw yourself from a picture. And I remember I saw like such a vast difference in accuracy. The photos are a lot better because you're more standstill. Mirrors are like, you never know. You're like shifting angles, or you look up and it's not the same way, or your hair is different from the last second. So yeah, I do both, but I prefer photos.
Very nice. Well, thank you so much to both of you for joining us today. This was super fun. I loved hearing about your school and just your processes and seeing a little bit of demos here and there. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having
Thank
us. I had
you.
such a fun time.
It was so much fun. Time really flew by.
It did. It really did. I want to remind everybody in the chat, we do have a special promotion going. We have $300 off either model of the Mobile Studio Pro. We'll be dropping some details about that in the chat, so you can go take advantage of that. But I believe the code is Wacom Week, so keep that in mind. And we also have a fun session coming up later this afternoon. We have the Wacomic session, which is basically like a live drawing party. That will be from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. So please come join us. Draw with all of your new art friends from the chat. We hope to see you there. Thank you guys so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for everyone for coming.
Bye, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, and don't forget to follow Lucy and Ren on Instagram, duh.